Today I'm here with Kevin Schreck, the director of the documentary Enongo. And Kevin, would you like to tell everyone what your film's about?
Sure, thank you for having me. Enongo is a feature-length documentary. It's a biography of a woman who is a rapper, producer, Ph.D. candidate, a real polymath. And in addition to it being a portrait of this hip-hop artist and academic through her music and through behind the scenes, it's also a partially animated documentary with an amazing team of animators, all black women animators, telling her story in their own unique styles.
Yeah, and having seen the film, like the animated sequences are so fun to watch. At what point did you, either through the interviews or following her, did you think like, okay, this is how we need to portray those moments?
Well, the animation for the film came late in production, relatively. It wasn't an initial idea. I love animation, but I also, as a result, respect animation. And I know that animation is very expensive and time-consuming and laborious, and I'm not an animator myself. So as I was putting the film together in a more traditional sort of style, right, of documentary portraiture, where we see this artist like behind the scenes and on tour and having testimonial interviews, and we see her perform on stage. There were these moments, especially with the testimonial interviews, where she is such a great communicator of her personal story. But we didn't, these anecdotes were so important to have to understand who she was, but we needed some sort of visual component to help tell that story, not just tell the story, but to show it in a cinematic fashion. And I realized maybe animation isn't a bad idea. And to give us some way of understanding what her life was like when we didn't have any actual visual record of it, say like her childhood or these really intimate moments of her past that happened long ago, or even just her thoughts going on and her dreams or nightmares in some cases of what are the things that keep her up at night or that she thinks about, that makes her who she is. And getting that intimacy, in spite of the fact that documentary aims for being like this survey of an objective reality, which I think is good, there's inevitably some subjective creativity that comes in. And I've thought, well, with animation, we can kind of embrace the subjectivity. We can embrace the fact that an artist is helping to tell her story in their own way. And all of the animators I found, each one of these young women I think found a way that they really connected with her story.
I know a lot of documentary filmmakers do have to do some research beforehand just to know the subjects they're talking about. With this, was there a research process where you kind of sat down or like, okay, I need to understand what the life of a musician is and the life of a PhD student. I need to know what Comic-Con is all about. Was there a process for you? And if so, how did the research impact the film?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. I'd say those 18 months of first seeing her on stage as a very pleasant and exciting surprise, and then warming up to figuring out next time I saw her on stage was, okay, I want to pitch this idea to her of making a film. That year and a half, that was sort of my research time. Because her music was compelling. She had a story to share, and I just wound up listening to all of her music. Everything that was available publicly that she shared with the world, I listened to. Every interview, whether it was a video interview or something written down, I wanted to watch or read. I wanted to understand as much as I could about her before pitching this idea to her. I wasn't even sure if I was the one to make the film, but I wanted somebody to make a movie about her, because it was sort of like, this is a movie I want to see exist. And so that was really, those 18 months was figuring out what actually is the story, so that when I do go up to her, if I go up to her to pitch this idea, how can I describe it? And also show that I'm informed about who she is and also open to the adventure ahead, because every project I make is different from the last usually. And so there's always a learning curve So I had never been to like a comic book convention before. I had not been on the road with a performing traveling musician before. I had not directed animation before, so this was, there were a lot of new experiences, but I was, after all that time, open to them, open to that challenge.
It feels really hard to imagine a way to do that with her, to say, okay, we're going to focus on the music, and this is how being a Ph.D. candidate informs that. In terms of storytelling, what was your guide or process in balancing all the aspects of her life?
Yeah, it's sometimes a little bit tricky when you're capturing a story in real time because you don't know how it ends. You don't really know even if the moments that are unfolding in front of you as the camera is rolling are even significant moments, or maybe moments that seem insignificant or that are understated. You realize in the edit, when you're looking at it as a story, oh wow, that actually tells us a lot about who she is or what makes her tick, or maybe that was a really pivotal moment in the narrative. It's something that you have to kind of discover through the edit, and kind of stepping back and looking at, a big story, stepping back and looking at it as a unified story, I think helps, because unlike making an historical documentary where pretty much all the action has already happened, you can kind of neatly put that all together. This is the origins, this is the second act in the middle, and this is the grand finale because it's already occurred. The excitement and the trickiness of a cinema verite or contemporary story is you don't know what the story is going to be exactly. You kind of have to figure this puzzle out, but that's also part of what makes it exciting. And sometimes I make films that are historically set, and I can figure out the story before we even get into production to a certain extent. And other times I have no idea where we're going with it, but that's a very exciting thing. So I think just being open-minded to anything. There's certainly some footage that didn't make the final cut, of course, but finding those really intimate moments where she was vulnerable, or where she said something that was funny and also poignant, or something where you see a real connection with another human being, whether it's people in the audience or her fiance or her bandmates, Zoe and Adrian. Those were usually the most significant moments where you're just sort of observing, and you can understand as a fellow human being, this is a moment of connection, or this is a moment of vulnerability, or a moment of strength, or maybe even the two at the same time. I think oftentimes Enongo's superpower, it's been said by some of her fans and supporters, is that she can be really powerful and vulnerable at the same time, that these are complementary. And finding those moments behind the stage, finding those moments behind the scenes in her day-to-day life, or when she's on stage and performing sort of in character, balancing that all together was, I think, a rewarding thing, because I didn't want to make a film that was, just a fan letter, a rose-tinted glasses, tribute. And I also, of course, didn't want to make some sort of scathing, takedown of her. I'm not trying to ruin her career or her character or anything. I wanted to find that healthy range where it's a three-dimensional, honest portrait of a human being. And you're always a little unsure if you're getting there, if you're putting them on too much of a pedestal or diminishing one side of them or not. But I'm happy to say that when Enongo did see the film, because she had no creative control over it, but when she did see the film at the world premiere, she did say that this was the first time she's seen a permanent portrait of herself and has been okay with it. That was incredibly profound. She'd already given me this enormous gift to tell her life story the way I saw, to tell her life story the way I wanted to, which is an incredible act of trust and faith in another person. But then to say, yeah, I actually think you nailed it, was very special, very special.
I'm trying to think when I started taking on the label of artist, because it wasn't something that was sort of self-evident to me. I think before that I was like, I'm a rapper, and even that was a lot for me to take on. And I think it has a lot to do with feeling like you know, what have I contributed, what have I made? And I only recently have begun to be like, this is my art, this is my art to share.
Hey, as a little kid, wasn't really rap tight. Yeah, they always said I was trying to act white, even though I'm black like night without a flashlight. Guess they'd rather have me dragging on the crack pipe. I'm not one thing, I'm not two things, I'm not three things, no, I'm not four things. I am more things than I'm reporting. Let's not force it, I'm mighty morphine. Yeah, I'm not one thing, I'm not two things, I'm not three things, no, I'm not four things. I am more things than I'm reporting. Let's not force it, I'm mighty morphine.
She had like this dedication, she had this focus, this goal. She was gonna make it, she was gonna make it work and do whatever it took.
I don't want to let my parents down, and I don't want to let the people down who have supported me all this time. Music is a way to communicate, something that you might not be able to just convey through conversation. It feels like this deep, intimate human connection that I don't think I can experience in any other way. It feels like I can be there for people through my music.
Yeah, I'm not one thing, I'm not two things, I'm not three things, no, I'm not four things. I am more things than I'm reporting. Let's not force it, I'm mighty morphine. Black girl rock, black girl mosh, black girl program on your Macintosh. Black girls winning those Olympic crops. Black girls got to make our lipstick pop. Black girl rock, black girl mosh, black girl program on your Macintosh.